I'm sure by now you all know what James Comey did. It's a huge scandal, and I'm going to tell you this right now. He absolutely should be investigated, arrested, and likely go to prison. Unfortunately, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think he's likely to face a single solitary second of prison time, and I'm going to explain why right here on American Advocates. Oh wow, look at that cool seashell formation. I should take a photo of that and share it on social media. That's the exact story that James Comey wants you to believe when it comes to how and why he discovered that seashell formation and posted it on his social media, only to delete it within a couple of hours when he saw the heat coming his way. But in an official statement after he deleted the post, he had this to say. I posted earlier a picture of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, so I took the post down. Well, thank you and bravo, James Comey. Now, here's the problem. Everyone knows this guy is full of crap, right? President Donald Trump addressed this scenario with James Comey right here, saying as much.
A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear.
James Comey is the former head of the FBI. He 100% knew what the term 86 meant and how it could be easily used as a very sinister term. And nobody's buying his story. That's why Representative Andy Ogles called for the Secret Service to launch an investigation into James Comey. And that absolutely has been happening, as news articles have published as much. He's under a lot of scrutiny now. But here are the two main issues that I see when it comes to consequences being dished out to James Comey over this social media post, and why I think prison time is extremely unlikely for him. First and foremost, James Comey is somebody who has worked in law enforcement for years now, and he's very experienced in this realm when it comes to law enforcement, etc. He's going to craft a story and a narrative full of loopholes that he can exploit to evade consequences, and he's going to likely be smart enough to stick to that story. Because while the public opinion will be that nobody buys the fact that he just stumbled across these seashells, especially when you look at older social media posts by him where he's posted other cutesy little seashell messages, like the one where he posted a seashell that said Harris on it back in October last year, and in the caption he was endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Apparently, I guess he'd want you to believe he stumbled across that too, which means that there's either two scenarios happening here. One, a bunch of liberal activists stroll on his beachfront backyard all the time and leave politically themed seashells in it. Or two, James Comey goes out to the beach all the time because he lives there and he creates the politically themed seashell messages for his social media. We all know what the likely scenario is here of the two, but he's going to stick to that story because in a court, it's going to work differently, and the burden of proof will be on the prosecutor, not on him. He'll create the story, he'll stick to it, and that's that. Now, more importantly than how he discovered the seashells or if he created them or not, which will be pretty much unprovable, the most important thing to realize here is the definition of the term 86. He's already stated that he didn't understand that the term 86 could be implicated with violence. And again, he's full of crap and everyone knows it, but the problem is he'll stick to that story, and the bigger problem is when you even Google what the term 86 means, this is the result. 86 means to eject, cancel, or remove. And I do know this because I've worked in 3 restaurants in my lifetime as well, and that is what it means. You 86 something off the menu. It doesn't mean you kill it. It doesn't mean you assassinate it. It just means you remove it. Now, James Comey, again, somebody who worked in the FBI and pursued justice against mobsters, gangsters, criminals, would full well know that that term can be used in a more sinister slang meaning. But the biggest problem, again, is he's going to lean into the proper definition of that term and he's going to stick with it. What I would say is, regardless of what story he decides to come up with and stick to, this is a layup right now being served to the current Trump Department of Justice. When it comes to Attorney General Pam Bondi and current FBI Director Kash Patel, I haven't been too happy with what I've seen performance-wise out of them in their first 100 days. They've done a good job removing a bunch of fentanyl off of American streets. They've removed a lot of criminals off the American streets and pedos. That's great too, but these are all things that have been expected. What we really want, we the people, we MAGA conservative Republican supporters want, is to see justice brought to high-profile names. And we've gotten a little inkling of that when it comes to people like Judge Hannah Dugan and Judge Juan Cano. These arrests have been made and they were satisfying to see, but they're not quite the big names that we want or even think of when it comes to fraud, corruption, and criminal behavior, is it? James Comey, on the other hand, is that big name. In fact, he's the first big name that might be up for grabs because of his own dumb behavior. And like I said, there's going to be tons of legal issues when it comes to pursuing this, but nevertheless, the Trump Department of Justice should pursue this with all of their might. Tulsi Gabbard says as much in this interview, where she calls for the accountability of liberal bad behavior.
We, the American people, cannot take this lightly. Whatever your politics, we cannot allow people to get by without being held accountable for this kind of public call to assassinate the President of the United States.
And she says this because she sees the same thing I do. They blatantly engage in fraud, corruption, and criminal behavior because they've gone years now without facing any severe consequences for doing so. In most, or if not all cases, in fact, they get to maintain and keep their position in public office while doing as much. It's despicable. This current Trump Department of Justice has a huge task at hand, but they are expected to deliver on this because it is the will of the American people. And while it's refreshing to hear Tulsi Gabbard's opinion on what James Comey's fate should be,
I will tell you that there is a guy in Georgia who is issuing threats on my life about a month ago, and he's in jail today.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do.
I still remain highly skeptical of if those results will actually happen. But what are your opinions and thoughts on this? Leave a comment down below if you think James Comey should be arrested and should face prison time, or let me know if you're as skeptical about it as I am. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I'm going to leave you all with a slightly more lighthearted note. This photograph of James Comey sitting on the beach. And with this image on screen, I just want to ask one question. What kind of arrogant douchebag reads his own book in his spare time on the beach? Unreal.